What's up, my people? Before I start this video, I want to make it clear that I'm going to have more than 10 NBA players. I know, I clickbaited you, sue me already. But some players will be grouped together. You'll understand when I get into it. I want to have some honorable mentions that didn't make the cut. Montrezl Harrell, LaMarcus Aldridge, Anthony Davis, and Bam Adebayo. Quick disclaimer again, I ain't counting the playoffs for this list. Not saying whoever wins the chip doesn't count, but this whole bubble thing is so crazy, it's hard to comprehend at times. Now, ever since the early to mid 2010s, there's been an uprising, angry and outraged NBA fans. These people have been disgusted with the different play styles used by different teams. They hate how players apparently today are not as tough or thick-skinned, sometimes calling them a bitch, pussy, soft, snowflake, the list goes on. Since these people who comment this play prison ball, barefoot in the Sahara Desert with glass on the floor, that means if people now don't match that or go through worse, they're automatically weak. There's more issues they have with the NBA, and these types of people are referred to as old heads. Of all the different types of fans, old heads are obviously the most displeased because they wish the NBA was played like how it used to be. Well, guess what, Waldorf? The 90s or 2000s will never come back, so deal with it. But I have compiled a group of NBA players that can bring back the sweet memories you had of the good old days, so I don't have to see you whining and complaining in the comments sections. So to start it off at number 10, I'ma go with Kevin Durant. And I know you all heads are already sending me death threats in the comment sections about how much I'm made of Puffs Ultra Soft, but let me explain. Before the 2010s, the NBA was filled with isolation scorers everywhere. That was the way perimeter players played, and who else but the best ISO scorer in the league right now. He does everything an old head likes, catching the ball in the post, shooting mid-ranges, taking threes when it's given, not forcing it, and slithering to the basket. Had to sneak that one in. Sure, there are people saying James Harden is the best ISO scorer in the league, but he shoots a lot of threes, and that gets the old heads' butt hurt, cause it ruins the game, which they might have a good point about. Also, if we're talking comparisons, the closest person we have to a modern day Larry Bird is KD. People like to say Luka, but his playstyle is pass first, while Bird and KD are score first, and the way KD scores is more similar to Larry than Luka or anyone in the league really. Pull-up jumpers, catching the ball in the mid or high post, ISO moves to create separation for the shot, fadeaways, the whole package. The major difference in their scoring styles is Bird plays off the ball more and KD plays more with the ball. But Larry can play with the ball in his hand and KD can play off the ball. Statistically speaking, they don't seem similar because they had different roles for the team. But when it comes to scoring, they have similar traits with a 3-point difference in their primes and almost similar shooting splits. And if we're keeping it a buck, people say Luka's the next Larry Bird because he's white, not athletic, and really good at basketball. But with all that taken into consideration, the biggest criticism the old heads have is that KD snaked the Thunder and joined the best team in the NBA, the Golden State Warriors, after he blew a 3-1 lead, which sounds very familiar. We all know old heads hate people who switch teams to partner with other people because they want everyone to compete against each other. All jokes aside though, that's a fair criticism. Number 9, Ja Morant. This was one of my most self-debating choices because J.A. Morant is so new to the scene, but his play reminds people of great players who have played before. And shout out to Thinking Basketball for the Morant comparison of an Iverson-Kevin Johnson hybrid. I do have to sprinkle in some MVP Derrick Rose for all the acrobatic finishes he does. But the electricity that Morant brings to every building is so unique, like it's been replicated by some and done better by a few. I feel the biggest reason you geezers will like Morant is because he's fearless. The dude just doesn't give a shit who's in front of him. He will attack the defender with 100% force. And the way he glides in the air is something I can only say is Michael Jordan-esque. Now I brought up your God's name. You MJ worshippers always get mad every time his name gets brought up. But keep in mind, I said the way he glides in the air. Not his hang time, not his vertical, not his dunk power, just his fucking glide. Mixing his athleticism, ball handling, supreme confidence, and only averaging 2.4 threes a game makes him a bona fide old head sensation. Number 8, the Morris Twins and Marquise Chris. This one's for all my fight-loving old heads, but this spot is like the bitter taste of NBA players. Now this is where I group players into one spot because I'm taking into account one key attribute these three men possess: starting shit with people and sometimes throwing hands. Old heads love the physical play back in the day, the intense moments, the high testosterone. They believe every team had enforcers. They love seeing people go at it, like Maurice Lukens and Daryl Dawkins in the 77 finals, or more recent than that, the Knicks-Heat rivalry in the 90s. Old timers like when players start altercations, so who better than the best three in the league at it? Y'all can add other names I left out, like Enes Kanter, Draymond Green, Yusuf Nurkic, Serge Ibaka because he actually throws hands, and many more, but the three that stand out are Marcus, Markieff, and Marquise. Sounds like a hood spinoff to Ed, Ed, and Eddie. All three of them just love doing fight buildups, like pushing, talking shit, yelling, getting in someone's personal space, you name it. But will never fight someone for some odd reason. This pick may be a little misleading because there's no stats to back it up and you have to go strictly off what you see, but there's enough footage out there that shows that these dudes be doing some stupid shit. I wanted to add Jared Dudley to the 3, but he gets no PT at all. Mans gets like 5 minutes a game. We'll start with Marcus Morris when he hit the ball off Justin Anderson's head, pushing Embiid, Jaylen Brown, who at the time was his teammate during a timeout, and pushing Jokic. I guess he likes doing that. And with the series done, fucking doing some dirty, unnecessary shit to Luka and claiming he's the second best defender on LeBron. Sure. But that's what the oldies crave, am I right? Now Markieff Morris. He's like the Bowser Jr. to Bowser, who's Marcus Morris in this situation. When Markieff talked trash to Buddy Hield, which is fine, but decides to get in his face for no reason. He's pushed Archie Goodwin, who was his teammate at the time, pushed OG Anunoby. I don't know what they find in pushing. Then Marquise Chris, and he is the most interesting one of the three because he doesn't do normal pushes. He goes above and beyond that and throws people to the ground or does a hard enough push to make people fall. Like when he threw Porzingis to the ground, blindside pushed Ricky Rubio to the ground for no reason, pushed Luka Doncic and acted like he wanted to square up with him, and the best of them all, a real fight he had with Serge Ibaka when they both swung at each other. So each of these dudes' resumes speak for themselves, but if I were to go with one, it has to be Marquise Chris, and there's not really a debate because he actually tries to prove a point with his fight starters. He adds a little oomph to each push and toss to the ground. Plus, he's the only one of the three that actually fought someone, and he's only 23. With this much work at that age, he's set to have a great career of bullshit enforcing that every Abe Simpson looking ass old head can use to comment he reminds me of the good old days. Number 7. Patrick Beverley and Marcus Smart. This will be the last group spot, I promise. Some of y'all are confused and understanding as to why these two are here, but you can't really explain it. Both of them are each one half of the legendary 90s player who also acts like everybody's cocky uncle, Gary Payton. See, I had both on my list, but I felt each of them didn't fully fit the criteria of old school Gary Payton style guards. Marcus Smart has the elite first team level defense, but not the constant trash talk, while Pat Bev has the constant trash talk, but not the elite first team level defense anymore. However, Smart and Beverley can be a turnoff for the old heads because they both don't measure up in almost every way to GP and his success because the glove was a superstar, while Smart and Beverley are very good role players. Offensively, they aren't even remotely as similar or impactful, statistically and eye test speaking, as GP averaged 21, 8, and 5 in his 10 prime years, while Smart and Beverley can barely get 10 points on their best season. But this isn't a video to bash the new wave, funny enough. This is meant for Marcus and Patrick, and besides the great defense that these two men possess, they both love to get into it with the ops, like the people on number 7, but the difference is that these two can actually back it up with how they play. Number 6, Russell Westbrook. It's felt like forever that the list hasn't had a former MVP, but I can't leave out one of the worst volume 3-point shooters ever. Man's got more bricks than the Medellin cartel. Of all the people I've mentioned on the list, I gotta say Russ has to be the player with the highest intensity. Just pedal to the metal, call him Russ Supersonic, which is a big reason why old heads would be aroused from watching this man put everything on the line. Yes, I get that Russ doesn't play defense because everybody in the 90s was in contention for Defensive Player of the Year. They played with passion on their side, like their life depended on it. We can't take away from what he does offensively. And in the playoffs, he's making me look like an idiot saying this. But before all this Rona BS that only gets worse because bitches still throwing parties, people still hanging out in groups of 5 or more, and motherfuckers can't even wear a fucking face mask when they leave the house. Like, how difficult is it to do that, you selfish ass bastard? My bad, y'all. didn't mean to get sidetracked. But for the regular season, Russ averaged 27, 8, and 7 on 47, 26, and 73 splits, which is cool, I guess. But before the NBA shutdown, in the 11 games after Capella got traded, we saw Russ unleashed with 32, 8, and 5.5 with 54%. Yeah, I said it. 54, 38, and 72 splits. Those numbers alone are great, but what helps is the amount of threes he takes now. 2.4 a game? You know that's an old head's dream, seeing that low amount of attempts. That alone should make y'all want to watch him. But if you watch Russ, you will not be let down. And I can't forget to mention Russ without all the shit talking he likes to do. The cherry on top. Number 5, Jimmy Butler. Now this is where it just got real. And you can't get any more real than Jimmy Butler the third. This the type of dude that old heads salivate over because he's willing to talk that talk, put the clamps on you for trying to start shit with him, and still drop 20 to 25 on your head on offense. From my poverty level research, he best resembles Scottie Pippen and Ron Artest. He has the playmaking point forward ability of Scottie and the tough, rugged, Hall of Fame tireless defender style of Ron Artest. With that being said, what separates him from both Ron and Scottie is that he has a better half-court offensive game. He's what the people from number 7 and 8 think they are, but he's a legit star in the league, and his toughness is way more authentic. He got the thug life seal of approval. And his I'm 100% as real as it gets attitude is what makes him beloved by old NBA fans. His street credit score is at least 800. However, there are some oldies and young people who might feel drawn away by Jimmy because of some unusual behavior. Like the time him and Nene were butting heads, but Nene tried to do an MMA clinch, but it really looked like an intimate scene in a gay rom-com. That ain't really Jimmy's fault, but he was in the wrong place at the wrong time. And the most notorious one is when he was blowing kisses to TJ Warren like they in jail. I can understand the Nene situation, but this is some bullshit. There are so many different ways to get your point across. You could have flipped him off, thrown up gang signs, put your hand down to say he's your son, and it doesn't help that he looks like Frylock from Aqua Team Hunger Force. But if you take those two scenarios away, he makes 80s babies days because he has that old school mentality. Like when he said Marcus Smart ain't about that life, saying TJ Warren is straight garbage and is out of his league, and the most famous one, Jimmy and the third stringers. But all of this is justified because he's earned us respect since he's a star in the league. Number 4, DeMar DeRozan. From here till the number 1 spot, I better not hear a single comment saying any one of them isn't someone an old head should watch. I understand if y'all believe anyone 5 through 10 shouldn't be on the list, but there better be no entitled comments about 4 to 1. DeRozan is an old head classic because he does what they all believe is dead in the NBA. Mid-range shooting. And he don't shoot a decent amount of mid-ranges. No, not that. Try number 1 in attempts and makes in the league right now. And top 3 in the last 5 years. Except for 2016 season, he was number 6 in makes. But that's what y'all like to see, because in today's age, the mid-range is dead, extinct, 6 feet under. Well, guess what? DeMar is the mid-range Moses for all you religious old fans. Call him Jumper Jesus. Wait, it gets better. I ain't done. Did I not mention that he takes less than 1 3-point attempt a game? He want that midi. He thinks the 3 ball is ruining the game. All the nostalgic grandpas. Is that not enough evidence as to why you should watch this man? Yeah, he doesn't play elite defense or pretty good defense for that matter. But don't worry, because if that's not enough, I got someone who shoots middies, but he has more offensive production and he plays lockdown defense. Who is? Number 3, Kawhi Leonard. Before I get in on the fun guy, I want y'all to know that spots 3 through 1 could change. If you feel Kawhi is number 2, not 3, I can see that. If you feel he's number 1, I understand. If you feel his laugh sounds forced, I ain't gonna hold you on that. But Kawhi is kind of like an MJ for this generation. And no, I'm not saying he's as good as Mike. So take that bullshit somewhere else. But he's like the Tim Duncan version of Michael Jordan, if that makes sense. He does some stuff like MJ, but without the flashiness or the aesthetic. For example, on the mid-range shot, MJ is jumping high and hangs in the air for 30 seconds to shoot. Kawhi doesn't jump as much or hang in the air, honestly. On the post fade, Mike got that leg kicking out. Kawhi has his leg out, but not by much. On dunks, the ball gambler has these insane one-handed dunks, while Kawhi's one-handed dunks are Statue of Liberty style. Even in the demeanor, MJ's expressive, talking shit, and locked in. Kawhi is quiet, reserved, rarely talks, let alone trash talk, except for when the board man gets paid, but he's locked in as well. Obviously, Kawhi isn't close to the offensive player like MJ at all, but he has the fundamentals down to muscle memory. Yeah, he doesn't play prime defensive player of the year defense, but that has a large part due to injury from Zaza Pachulia, who NBA teams only picked up to do dirty plays. Honestly, fuck that guy for real though. I'm glad TickPicks buried his ass on that screen. With that said, Kawhi is not the clear number one defender in the league anymore like he used to be, but he's still an elite defender. I mean, he made All-NBA second team and missed out on the first team to the 3 Defensive Player of the Year candidates. That's saying something. However, with all that said, what is a big criticism for the Eustace Bags of the NBA is that he load manages. MJ didn't load manage. Nobody in the 90s did. I'm going back to watching hardwood classics. And what I gotta say to that is, everything can't be perfect. So deal with it, bitch. Now combine his elite defense with the old school mid-range offense and the killer instinct y'all love to preach like it's a superhuman power, and you got one of the best players an old head can watch. Number 2, the younger version of Booger McFarland, Zion Williamson. This can be premature to have a rookie be one of the top players for old heads, but Zion is a different breed. The man is doing shit in one season. Hell, not even 30 games. He's only played 24 games, and he looks like a superstar in the making, but in 24 games, he's shown the old school bully ball play that reminds them of the wild 90s. He's like the Mike Tyson of basketball. Short, but very powerful. Quick, and bull rushes whoever his opponent is. Obviously, his biggest basketball comparison is Charles Barkley, but I feel that doesn't truly capture his whole repertoire. I would say Sir Charles and Shawn Kemp. He's not as skilled as Barkley, but he is more athletic, specifically a higher leaper, and Mans does have a 45-inch vertical. Also, he is showing that he's one of the best lob catchers in the league, which is where the Shawn Kemp comparison came in, and the fact that Zion tries to bring down the rim every time he dunks. What makes Zion such a rightful candidate is that he scores majority of his points in the paint, by Marshawn lynching them out of the way, honestly. With some of the ways he backs down in the post, or on the drive, and hey, that's another thing, he posts up a lot. And to add the nail in the coffin, his relentless effort, especially on the boards, makes an old head shed a tear in their eye. But even he can't go past the man that's next, and it's number 1, Giannis Antetokounmpo. I'm not trying to be lazy, but do I need to say anything about him? The proof is there. He's literally a 2K demigod come to life. But to go in depth, Giannis has the physique of an ultra athletic power forward center with ball handling and lockdown defense. From all the comparisons I could think of, obviously the most popular being Orlando Magic Shaq, and shout out to Austin Sweat saying Giannis is Shaq and Scottie Pippen, my best comparison is a mixture of Russell Westbrook and Wilt Chamberlain. He has the ball handling of a point guard, but he also drives to the hole like Westbrook does. And add the Wilt body shape, you got the Greek god of basketball. Again, he doesn't have everything Russ and Wilt have, but he's a perfect blend of their strengths and attributes. Let's get past the old head shit. Who wouldn't want to watch this man play? He is someone that is universally enjoyable. But to get back to the old heads, he does become a slight turnoff because this season, he's been shooting around 5 threes a game. But he does other shit old heads love, like driving to the rim, posting up, dunking on practically the whole team, putting the absolute clamps on everybody 1 through 5. And this ain't one of those bullshit ESPN takes where in one game a player sort of guarded 1 through 5 and they thought they were versatile enough. This dude can deadass lock up a perimeter player and protect the rim. Another good thing to mention is he doesn't mind getting dunked on or crossed or getting blocked, which shows he's fearless. He don't care about looking stupid. You know them Shady Shoals patients love that. And there it is. Those are my 10 players that old heads should watch to stop bitching about how bad the NBA is. Honestly, I don't truly hate what old fans have to say. In all seriousness, I agree with a lot of what they have to say, but they get so annoying with some of the ridiculous scenarios they paint out about how the NBA was back then, like how driving in the paint was like going into a dark alley in the projects. Basically, they over-exaggerate the living hell out of old school ball. With that said, if you like the video, beat up the like button. And if you dislike the video, then dislike and let me know why in the comments. This will be fun to read all the positive comments. See y'all later, stay safe, and stay inside. I'm trying to go out already.